Stay Alive Radio. How to survive hidden healthcare and hospital dangers with author, speaker, and your host, Pat Rulo. Pat has over 20 years experience as a professional public speaker, and for the next hour, she's going to be your healthcare and hospital survival guide. Each week, you will say, oh, as Pat exposes and explores little-known hospital hazards, delves into the deep waters of dangerous healthcare practices, picks the brains of her good-looking and influential guests, all guaranteed to keep you and your family safe in today's fragmented healthcare system. The Speak Up and Stay Alive radio program is intended to advance health literacy by making you aware of healthcare and hospital dangers. The program is for informational purposes only and is not intended for use as diagnosis or treatment of a health problem or as a substitute for consulting a licensed medical professional. Participating as a program listener, guest, or caller should not be considered medical advice. References to any entity, product, service, website, or source of information should not be considered as an endorsement. And now your host, Pat Rulo.
I can't bear you no more, baby. I got too much pride. But I'll survive. Keyboard.
Today, we are heading into April with a shower of healthcare safety tidbits guaranteed to grow your knowledge. And our guest is going to help us get along just a little bit better with our doctors and nurses. And later, we have a new game. So much fun around here. So turn up the volume, turn off your phones as we saturate your mind with these life-saving ideas. And now, for the hospital hazard of the week. Dangerous housekeeping. Can you guess what the germiest object in a hospital room might be? Did you think of the toilet flush handle, the tray table, the bed rails, or the doorknobs? Yes, those are fairly yucky, but I'm looking for this, the TV remote. Yep, everyone's favorite gadget. Think of all the people who touch it. You, your visitors, the nurses. Why would that be the germiest object? Well, not only does everyone use it, but think about the tiny little buttons on a TV remote. Then think about how difficult that would be to clean. Do you really think that a housekeeper who only has 15 minutes to spend in your room is going to get a bleach wipe and scrub around each and every one of those tiny little buttons? No. It's been said by my good friend, whom you hear every week on the show, Darrel Hicks, our resident infection preventionist, that one good housekeeper can prevent more diseases than a dozen doctors can cure. Let's talk about these housekeepers for a moment. The housekeeping staff is also known as environmental services. They stop by each day to clean your room and empty the trash. Because they travel from room to room, they are front runners for spreading infections. Housekeeping personnel have a high turnover rate. Some hospitals report a 100% turnover rate annually. According to a website, Infection Control Today, it's a common practice to wait until a housekeeper quits to hire a replacement. Therefore, it can take 3 to 6 weeks to get a new employee in the door. This leaves a gap in help and is a major link in the chain of infection. It also encourages managers to keep incompetent employees just so they can keep warm bodies in full-time positions. This creates more infections. Therefore, many housekeepers are new and not thoroughly trained or experienced in infection control. And with little opportunity to move into higher level and higher paying jobs, housekeepers are less connected to the outcome. That being, they're not so concerned about infection control. So it all adds up. Hospital housekeepers are the least trained, have the least amount of time to actually do a good job, are the least paid, and are the least respected, I'm sure, by higher-up hospital staff and many patients as well. I'm betting, then, that this must be one tough job. Well, however difficult it might be, I'm always amazed at the lack of attention to the common sense in the order in which housekeepers clean. One afternoon, I watched a hospital housekeeper clean my mom's bed tray with the same cloth she used in the bathroom. How about a little C. diff with your next meal? And what is that called? Cross-contamination. And not only is the order of cleaning your individual room important, but think about this. Isolation rooms are often regular rooms temporarily assigned as isolation rooms. They're usually scattered around the ward. However, when nursing and food service and therapy and the cleaning staff work their way through the ward, they do so following the order of the room numbers with no regard to the fact that they're mixing isolation rooms with regular rooms. How many hospital-acquired infections could be prevented if isolation rooms were left for last when doing rounds or when cleaning? And this leads me to think about another procedure, floor mopping. On my last visit to the hospital, I asked an environmental services administrator about the logic in smearing blood and body fluids and bacteria from room to room in the name of floor cleaning. Well, I learned a lot about floor mopping procedures. He told me that hospital floors are mopped daily with heavy-duty chemicals and either the traditional loop mop, you see the bucket and the wringer, or with the newer microfiber mops, kind of like the Swiffer. With the loop mops, the water is supposed to be changed every 2 to 3 rooms and the mop head washed at the end of the shift. Well, the only way that sounds good to me is if I am the first room of the day. That microfiber Swiffer cloth, that has removable cloths. Each room is supposed to be double cleaned with both sides of the cloth. Well, the only way to be sure that this actually happens is to watch the housekeeper as he or she enters your room. If in doubt, ask for a new cloth. Although I guess when it comes to cleaning floors, it's probably impossible to have a disinfected floor all the time because as soon as someone walks in, it's covered in dirt and germs brought in by their shoes. So now that you understand hospital floor washing procedures, you see why it is unsafe to use anything that touches the floor. You especially do not want to go barefoot anywhere in a hospital. It's also important not to contaminate your bed. If your pillow falls on the floor or becomes dirty, ask for a new one. In fact, we talked about this on a previous show about hospital pillows. Don't use them. Bring one from home, and not your favorite one either. Buy a real cheap pillow instead, ahead of time. Keep it stashed in your closet as a hospital pillow. And after the hospital stay, leave it at the hospital. There's no need to add cross-contamination cycle by bringing a good pillow to the hospital and then bringing it back home, full of potential life-threatening bacteria. It's also a good practice to keep a dedicated pair of footies or socks, one for your hospital bed and one for the floor. And here's another tip. Ask for a canister of bleach wipes to keep by your bedside. You or your advocate should wipe down all the surfaces in your room at least daily while wearing disposable gloves, of course. Cross-contamination is a serious problem. While you cannot control the hiring and the training practices of the housekeeping staff, you can keep a watchful eye and speak up if you see anything less than acceptable cleaning routine. The housekeeping staff should never enter your room already wearing gloves or a disposable gown or mask used in a previous room. The bottom line is this. Make friends with your housekeepers. Show them some respect. Thank them for cleaning your room. Share your concerns about infections with each and every housekeeper who enters your room. And here's my final tip that I know works because I've tried it, and so have many other folks I know. Simply bring a copy of my book, Speak Up and Stay Alive, with you to the hospital. The cover stands out. Leave it on your tray table. Now, when someone tries to clean your tray table with a dirty rag, they'll have to move the book. Next, they look at it and they ask, what is this about? Guess what? Great opportunity for you to tell them that you are concerned about hospital-acquired infections and why their job is so important. Now, not only did you make somebody feel good about their job, you've made a friend. And I guarantee you, the next time this new housekeeper friend cleans your room, you will get the white glove treatment. And that is good. So order the book at speakupandstayalive.com. Or if you do not have internet access, you can always call me, 440-725-5462, and I will personally mail a copy to you today. Let's hear some legal news you can use. When it comes to healthcare safety and just life in general, we can't be expected to be the expert of all things. That's why we need to have resources, people to help us when we enter unknown areas, especially when it comes to legal matters. So for the next 2 minutes, meet David King, an attorney from Schraff and King, located on Som Center Road in Willoughby Hills, Ohio. David, this might sound like a silly question, but what is an attorney and why do we need one?
Well, that's not a silly question. An attorney is a person educated to assist people professionally in resolving legal problems, providing advice and services with respect to legal issues, and representing them before courts and government agencies. Why does somebody need an attorney? I actually prefer what an attorney I first worked for told me early on, which is it is cheaper to stay out of trouble than it is to get out of trouble. That's probably a good piece of advice for just about anybody. Much or most of what we do in our daily lives is regulated to some extent by laws. Navigating through those laws in our daily lives is best done with the assistance of an attorney.
How should our listeners go about choosing an appropriate attorney to help guide them and get the answers they need regarding their health care issues?
That's a great question. Choosing an attorney is, in my opinion, every bit as important as the advice that you get from the attorney. There are obviously a variety of services available to help locate attorneys and to locate attorneys in the particular area of law that your issue falls within. There, of course, is the Internet. But in my opinion, the best way is to ask others that you trust. The attorney-client relationship is one built on trust, so ask those that you trust, your friends, your family members, co-workers, employers, other professionals that you work with, who they would recommend, and then do your research. Interview your attorney. Make sure that they're familiar with the issues that you come to them with and that they are experienced in handling those types of issues.
How can our listeners find out more about you and Schraff and King?
We can be contacted at 440-585-1600 and on our website at www.schraffking.com.
Thank you for taking the time to be with us today, David.
Thanks, Pat. It was a pleasure.
Here at Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio, we work hard to be the voice for those who wish to speak out, but either cannot or do not. Whether it's due to time constraints or fear of speaking out publicly, or maybe just not knowing how to go about getting started. And so many folks I meet have either been personally harmed by a medical mistake and survived, or are dealing with the loss of a loved one. Many own businesses or organizations or foundations that deal with healthcare safety. So what can you do to either remember or celebrate your loved one's life and create a legacy, or promote the important life-saving work of your business? Well, yeah, you could plant a tree or donate a park bench, but how can you really make a difference in the lives of others in an effort to help them avoid your heartache? How can you turn a negative medical error into a positive for others? We want to help you give purpose to your loved one's life or add another layer to the efforts of your organization. Let Speak Up and Stay Alive Legacy Radio do the work for you. Now, you can sponsor this acclaimed healthcare and hospital radio show. If you are an individual, it will be as a memorial and tribute to your loved one. And if you're an organization or a business, it will act as an extension of your advocacy endeavors. We will be your voice. Dedicate just one show or dedicate an entire year's worth of shows. The show will begin and end with your loved one's name and story, or your business name and mission statement, letting our listeners know that the program they enjoy and trust is thanks to you and yours. Each week, millions of listeners will have the opportunity to learn about healthcare and hospital hazards because of your experience. Taking action is the only way I know to help make sense and give purpose to a medical error. Help others by reaching out with me. Sponsor a single show, a month of shows, or up to 1 year of Speak Up and Stay Alive Legacy Radio hosted by me, and that covers all airtime and production costs. Contact me, and I will create a customized show just for you. I look forward to creating this legacy for you. Email me at speakupandstayalive.com or call me at 440-725-5462. Together, we will make a difference.
Generation America supports Speak Up and Stay Alive. Generation America, the smart, conservative, and traditional 50-plus membership organization. Generation America cares what their members think about the issues affecting seniors and ensure their voices are heard. And they provide a full range of benefits to members. For instance, if you're looking for a quality Medicare supplement, their rates are lower than the other 50-plus organization 3 out of 4 times. Generation America, on the right side for seniors. To join and to find out more, visit generationamerica.org.
You are listening to Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. I am your hostess, Pat Rulo, always on the lookout for a first-class guest to help you and me stay safe during any healthcare and hospital encounter. And that is why I have Marty Chadwick with us today, a professional mediator and owner of Mediation Path based in Gilbert, Arizona. Marty has been working in and around the healthcare community for well over 30 years and has experienced healthcare firsthand, both as a patient with and without an advocate, and as an advocate for patients of all ages. As a practicing attorney and as a healthcare and technology executive or consultant, it was consistently clear to Marty that success depended on conflicts being resolved and communications improved so that the result worked for all involved. He has mediated for the Arizona Attorney General's Office, the U.S. Equal Opportunity Commission, and the local justice courts. He has a well-rounded view of conflict within a healthcare setting, making him the perfect resource for our show. Welcome to the show, Marty.
Thank you for having me, Pat.
It's my pleasure. Well, folks, I met Marty at one of my live speaking events, and he was in the audience. And as he and I spoke, we realized that there was so much we wanted to tell you and actually had a rough time zoning in on a topic. But I am asked time after time and over again about how to deal with difficult physicians and nurses. So let's go there and focus on conflict within a healthcare or hospital setting as a patient or an advocate dealing with a doctor, nurse, or other healthcare provider. So, Marty, talk us through a conflict. What are people thinking and expecting, and what should they be thinking and expecting? Are they typically two different things?
Well, Pat, as you already know, conflict seems to be everywhere. Unfortunately, in the U.S., most of us have not been trained on how to deal with it, so it can be a real struggle. In its fundamental essence, a conflict is whenever somebody wants something and the other person is unwilling to give it, and there's only one of those somethings. People put themselves in a place where they want to win. So that means, by definition, somebody else needs to lose, and nobody likes that. If we can work our way towards something that's more win-win, how can I win, but how can I let the other person win as well? More of a compromise kind of thing that gets us where we need to be. As we are talking with somebody in this whole process, I know from my own personal experience, especially if it gets a little heated in a discussion, that I'm not really listening to them anymore. But rather what I'm doing is I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what am I going to say the minute that they shut up and give me an opportunity to jump in there? Unfortunately, when we do that, we're not listening, so we don't have a good idea of what the other folks are asking us for. What I always encourage my clients to do, and what I would encourage advocates to do, or maybe even ourselves if we're lying there on a hospital bed looking for some kind of help, is keep asking myself in the back of my mind, why is this person telling me this? Which causes me to then have to listen, and I can hear what they're saying. Sometimes, maybe I could just actually ask, why are you telling me this? And let them explain it, which gives us an opportunity to understand what they want. That's where the key to solutions or compromise lies. We all could say something like, I want your dog to stop barking. Well, what's the other person supposed to do with that? There aren't very many options. But if somebody, for example, says, I'd like your dog to stop barking because I have to sleep, I work third shift, now we can start exploring options that would work for both of us. Maybe earplugs would help one person. Maybe keeping the dog inside for some period of time would help the other one. So there are paths to find your way through all of this.
When we think of conflict, we think of people talking and shouting, and we don't think of the silent end of that. But then when I put myself in a hospital situation, I call this the silent conflict, that there's no shouting or yelling involved. But so many times your physicians, nurses, patients, and advocates, they come together almost as opponents rather than partners. And you can feel and sense that tension, that no one's really listening to each other. What can we do to avoid that?
Well, first I suggest you read your book. I mean, there is so much good information in there so that somebody can be prepared. Being prepared is really more than half of the battle. Then, secondarily, the next step is to pay attention, first and foremost, to yourself. stay calm and listen. And as you're hearing people talk, reflect back on people what they're telling you. Don't parrot them, but ask or say simple things like, if I understand you, you want me to do this, whatever it might be, comma, can you help me understand why? Elicit their help, elicit their cooperation, as opposed to being demanding or pushing your own thought forward. What you can also do is what I call going to the balcony, stepping above the conflict and looking at the two players that are in there, yourself and the other person, and asking yourself, how am I contributing to this? Is there something I could do better? Am I actually really listening? And then sort of the last thing I think always works is to make sure people are focused on what it is that's being discussed. Sometimes you'll wind up in a situation that we find very frequently in our American culture where people are doing crosstalk. Somebody says something and then the next person says something that's not even connected. So somebody might say, for example, wow, the weather is dismal out there. And then the other person responds, boy, the room in here seems to be warm. That's a disconnect. So focusing on that to make sure everybody's talking about the same thing can be helpful. Also, in trying to elicit support from people, if you say simple things like, I know you are busy, but can you please help me understand? Then I can better help you with whatever that might be. Again, people are always wanting to help. It's a subconscious thing that's built into almost all of us. And if you can open the door for them to walk through it, most people will in fact do that.
Oh, you and I are on the same page. I say that to people all the time. If you ask for help, and if you thank people for helping you in such a way that they realize you really needed that help, could you please help me? How many people are going to turn that down?
Not many,
yeah.
Especially if you thank them. People really love that reward.
Absolutely. Thank you. I used to say that all the time in the hospital with my mom. Thank you for helping me and my mom. It's like, wow, I think that's powerful.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it.
Well, talking about power, many times, though, doctors approach the patient as having power over the patient rather than having power with the patient. And you and I talked briefly about this before, about trained arrogance. So somebody comes at you with that arrogance already, and you're feeling subservient. You're wearing this nasty hospital gown. Your hair looks like heck. You know, you're not feeling as powerful as you might normally. Yeah. What do we do about that trained arrogance? How do we get past that?
First, you have to sort of, see it for what it is. Recognize that you're not going to change that. This is something that's built in through years and years of training and experience. So you need to deal with what it is that you have right in front of you at the moment. Not all healthcare professionals are the same, especially when you get around folks that have been trained more recently. They seem to have a little bit different kind of attitude. As society has changed, they've kind of changed along with it. So you want to first and foremost recognize what it is that's in front of you. Then you need to be what I call firm and respectful, not aggressive. These folks have invested a lot of time and energy in what they're doing. They hopefully know what they're doing, and they don't appreciate being challenged, but they do appreciate most often being in a helpful kind of position. So one of the things I recommend doing is stepping to the side of the doctors that are in the process. And by that I mean express some kind of recognition for what their challenges are. Most physicians anymore, especially in the economic situation we live in today, are really pressed for time. And simply saying to them something like, I know you're really pressed for time, but I really need your help to understand what's going on with my mother so that I can better help her and you. You've done two things with a statement like that. First, you've recognized what one of their challenges are. And second, you've offered to help in some way, which is going to help them relieve what their stress is. And then they're going to say whatever they're going to say. Remember to be firm, respectful. Don't allow yourself to become intimidated. It's important that you get the information that you need. So just calmly repeat what it is you're asking until you actually get an answer. And then immediately go through the process of saying, thank you, I appreciate the information. It was very helpful. People really remember when you say thank you. I know I do, and I know when I work with hospital staff, they always remember the patients that said a simple thank you because it differentiates you from the average person, and that's an important thing to do. One of the things I always caution people to do, too, is never embarrass a nurse or a doctor in front of each other. There's a lot of stress in the environment already, and they are very intolerant of that kind of thing. If you embarrass your nurse in front of that doctor, he or she is going to remember that, and it will make your life much more difficult as you go forward. These people are just exactly that. At the fundamental core, they are people, just like we all are. And as you think about what it is you like and don't like, most of the time that fits them absolutely as well. So just see the situation for what it is. You can't change it, so you just simply need to work with it. So if you are calmly and firmly assertive of what your need is and ask for their help and assistance, and remember to thank them, you will probably get a good result.
This is excellent advice. Folks, if you're just finding us, you're listening to Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. I am your hostess, Pat Rulo, and we are talking with Marty Chadwick, a professional mediator and owner of Mediation Path based in Gilbert, Arizona. And we are discussing conflict within a healthcare setting. Marty, I loved what you said, to recognize, say, I understand that you're in a hurry, but, and then ask for help and be respectful and firm. But I really need your help. And then at the end of that, thank you so much for taking the time to help me. I think that is, just in a nutshell, some beautiful advice, not just for a healthcare situation, but for life in general. Now, if we as a patient or an advocate, we say we haven't preempted any argument, we're in the middle of a conflict, how do we find our way out?
My first suggestion is to do something that's called go to the balcony. It comes out of a book by Leon Ury called Getting to Know. A very inexpensive book, and I recommend it to everybody as great reading to understand how to resolve conflict. What is meant by that is, well, do you remember back the old theaters where they had balconies in them?
Yeah.
Where you could actually go upstairs and you could smoke in the balcony?
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, and everybody went up to make out, of course. There's no doubt about that.
I don't remember that.
It was dark and quiet up there. Well, one of the advantages of being up there is you could also look over and see all the people that were down in the more mezzanine types of areas. If you do that in a conflict, you find yourself getting embroiled in it, just momentarily pause in your mind and pretend that you have gone up to a balcony and you're now looking down on yourself and the other person that's there, and see if you can observe what's happening. Can you see how they're approaching you? Can you see how you're reacting to it? And that sometimes will give you a really good insight into what's happening. But what it also does is, instead of you're just immediately reacting and jumping out there and saying something, you've stopped for 1 second, just long enough to make sure that you have still maintained your own control as you're going forward in the process. That control is important for discipline. One of the things that makes it easier to resolve conflict is to use I statements, not you statements. When you do this, I feel bad. If you just simply say, you're doing that makes me feel bad, that makes all of us defensive. And you don't want to make the other person defensive. That pause allows us to think for a second so that we can then phrase things appropriately. One of the other things to consider is allow a graceful way for the other person to retreat. Help them write some kind of a victory speech, if you will. Stay away from, aha, I won, you lost. See if you can find some way to allow them to be able to say, I did get something back from this, and that will help a lot.
So let's say I'm a patient lying in a hospital bed. What are the ways I can quickly build relationships as a way to preempt a conflict? We talked about asking for help and thanking people. Is there anything else we can do?
Yeah, just be a real person. I mean, you really just need to be a person. I mean, have some humor, have some smile. I know sometimes it can be difficult, especially if you're the individual that's suffering some level of pain or discomfort. But that humor goes a long, long way. People generally always want to help people and identify with people who are naturally friendly because they see them as possible friends. I mean, just the way we all think. If you do that, you not only do you get potentially better help, but you again stand out from the crowd and people will remember you. And I've had occasion to, unfortunately, many times to get in a cath lab. And so I'm in there maybe every 6 months, every year. And over the years, most of the nursing staff remembers me, only because I related to them as another human being and not as a servant or somebody who was just there to give me a hard time with a bunch of rules. Just keeping it on a person-to-person basis gets you exactly where you want to be.
And I think in a hospital setting, it's really important to have somebody with you, an advocate, because if you're not feeling well, or if you're under anesthesia, or you're under the influence of drug side effects, you're not going to be able to be your normal, pleasant self. So I think it behooves people to think ahead of time, like, who would my advocate be? And maybe have these conversations with them, little training, so that they know how to deal with the healthcare providers in the same way that you're speaking of.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. I agree.
Well, Marty, how can our listeners find out more about you and what you do?
Well, a couple of things that they can do. One, they can go to my website, which is www.mediationpath.com, or they could email me, marty@mediationpath.com, or give me a call. It's 480-694-2273.
And so if our listeners have any need for mediation, not just in a healthcare situation, what other aspects of life do you do mediation work?
Several. I help people in family situations or where they've got conflict, divorce, elder challenges of one form or another, which is ever increasing, as well as business mediations.
All right, good. Keep that in mind. What's your website again?
Mediationpath, PATH.com.
Excellent. Do you have any final words of advice for us today?
A couple of things. One, just remember to be confident you can do it. Remember you can't get what you don't ask for. And all of these things we're talking about fits life overall, even with like your significant other. If you employ some of these techniques with that person, you'll get practice and you'll also improve your relationship with them. Also, finally, be very aware of first impressions. Wait until you've had an opportunity to get to know an individual before you form that impression.
Wow. This is such awesome advice. Thank you, Marty, for shedding some light on how we can better prepare ourselves to avoid a healthcare conflict and what actions we can take to create positive outcomes for all if we find ourselves in the middle of a conflict. I'm hoping that you can come back again and we can continue this conversation.
Sure. I'd be glad to do that. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you as well.
We interrupt our program to bring you a special broadcast.
Let's spend the next 2 minutes with our resident cleaning and infection preventionist, Darrel Hicks, consultant and author of the book, Infection Prevention for Dummies. Darrel, what is the role of a hospital housekeeper?
Their main role is to prevent infections, and the people that I work with, they get to feeling like all they do is clean toilets and make beds. That can be kind of depressing, but if you give them a purpose, such as you're able to save lives, if you do your job right, you have the right amount of time, the right tools, the right training, the right chemicals, that you will save more lives than a room full of doctors can cure. So if you get that attitude that I'm in the infection prevention business, then it's more than just flopping a mop and running a rag over things, that you have to have a purpose. I think most people will respond to that purpose, and at the end of the day, they can go home and with the assurance that maybe they saved someone's life today.
And I think as patients, it would be very nice if we, in turn, after a housekeeper tended to our room, would say thank you for keeping my room clean. And then they would feel that they're really affecting someone else.
Yeah, I think that anyone responds to positive feedback. And I train my ladies that when they get done cleaning, that they ask the patient or their significant other that may be visiting or sitting there with them, is the room clean for you? And that's your opportunity to ask questions or to give compliments. But if they're not asking, then you need to offer thank you, or could you get this for me so that I know that the room is clean. Most people respond to positive feedback, and just a thank you for the job that they do is very appreciated.
Absolutely. I encourage our listeners to thank a housekeeper.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, Darrel. How can we learn more about you and your book, Infection Prevention for Dummies?
My website is www.darrelhicks.com. That is Darrel, DARRELHICKS.com. You can find out how to get in touch with me or order the book there.
Well, thank you, Darrel. I encourage our listeners to check out your website and your book, and your blog has lots of excellent information. Thank you for being here today. You for listening to Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. Now you can join us every Saturday morning on two Cleveland stations from 7 to 8 Eastern on AM 1420 WHK and from 9 to 10 Eastern on AM 1220 WHKW. And on Sundays in Phoenix, Arizona from 9 to 10 Mountain Time on AM 960 KKNT, The Patriot. Or listen to us live online from anywhere in the world at the station's websites. I am your hostess, Pat Rulo. So happy to spend this hour with you to help you survive any healthcare or hospital encounter. Well, after last week's Squeak Up and Stay Alive marathon, where we had callers from around the country and Canada who played our favorite radio game, we just knew we couldn't top that. So today, you are lucky enough to experience the debut of our new favorite game, inspired by Bob. Thank you very much.
Shocking news from around the world.
Here's how this game happens. I will read a healthcare-related statement. Bob and Jeremy will use their keen sense of reasoning to decide if the statement is true, or as we call it, a shock, or is it false? We call it a crock. So is the statement a shock?
Wow.
Or a crock?
Oh.
You ready, guys?
Let's go.
Let's do this.
All right, it's a new one, guys. The Speak Up and Stay Alive shocking news number one. Last year, a Colorado man won $7 million in a lawsuit after eating 2 bags of popcorn every day for 10 years. Is that a shock or a crock?
I hope it's a crock.
Oh, no, that's a shock.
Okay, it is true, and it is a shock.
Wow.
Jeremy, it's called popcorn lung.
Really?
Popcorn lung refers to a potentially fatal respiratory disease that develops in workers at flavoring plants who inhale diacetyl, the chemical that provides the flavoring and the buttery smell in popcorn. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So on other things too, do we think, or is it just popcorn?
Well, wherever that flavoring is, that diacetyl flavoring, yeah.
Oh, goodness.
So personally, I only buy 100% organic popcorn. Again, folks, read the labels. Hey, guys, is this fun or what?
I'm liking this one.
All right. The Speak Up and Stay Alive shocking news number 2. According to a study by researchers at Albert Einstein College of Medicine of Yeshiva University, up to 1 in 5 people on antibiotics stop taking their full course of antibiotic therapy due to diarrhea. Is this a shock or is it a crock?
What do you think, Bob?
I'm going to say it's a crock.
I'm going to agree, crock.
Oh, no. This is shockingly, it's a true statement.
Wow.
Antibiotics target bad bacteria, but they also kill the good bacteria in the large intestine, leading to diarrhea. What would this show be if we didn't talk about diarrhea? At least?
Yeah, really.
Seriously, people, who knew I was going to be doing this? Physicians could help patients avoid this problem by prescribing probiotics. The effects of probiotic doses are short-lived, so they should be taken throughout your course of antibiotic therapy. And probiotics do not diminish the effectiveness of antibiotics. That's good to know. All right, the Speak Up and Stay Alive shocking news number 3. A Swedish study says physical activity during youth may help reduce fracture risk in old age. Is that a shock or is it a crock?
I'm going to say that's shocking.
I'm agree. I'm going to say shock.
You got it right. That is true.
Wow.
Exercise interventions in childhood may be associated with lower fracture risks as people age due to the increase in peak bone mass that occurs in growing children who perform regular physical activity. So kids, put down your cell phones, step away from the TV, go outside and run around.
Stay away from the brownies.
You kids, what do you guys think of that?
I think that's what they need to do.
I agree. You got to get out there, got to get active.
Absolutely, kids. All right. The Speak Up and Stay Alive shocking news number 4. Sugar-sweetened sodas, sport drinks, and fruit drinks may be associated with about 80,000 deaths around the world each year. What do you think, shock or crock?
Sadly, I'm going to say shock.
I'm going to agree with that. That's that's true.
And you know what? It's a crock.
Oh.
And you know why? Because the number is higher.
Oh, wow. What is the number?
The real number is 180,000.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Sugar-sweetened beverages are consumed throughout the world and contribute to excess body weight, which increases the risk of developing diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and some cancers. According to the research presented at the American Heart Association's 2013 scientific sessions, Mexico, one of the countries with the highest per capita consumption of sugary beverages in the world, had the highest death rate overall due to these drinks.
That's shocking.
That is shocking. So bring on the water, people. Okay, you ready for the squeak up? I'm last week's news, right? The Speak Up and Stay Alive shocking news, number 5. A homeless man has been caught living in a hospital pretending to be a doctor. Oh, is that a shock or a crock?
I'm going to say that's shocking.
Yeah, that's shocking, but a crock?
Is that a crock, a shocking crock?
I think so.
It is a shock.
Wow.
The man was discovered in a Louisville, Kentucky hospital wearing scrubs, a lab coat, and a surgical mask.
Wow.
But it gets worse. He was logged onto a hospital computer when he was spotted. An employee staff member had been fooled by the homeless man and mistakenly gave him access.
Wow.
You got to be careful where you go.
Wow is right. All right. Are we ready for the last Speak Up and Stay Alive shocking news number 6?
I think I'm ready.
Okay, you guys. A New York man was billed $44,776,587 for an outpatient visit to a hospital to treat pneumonia. Is that a shock or a crock?
I hope it's a crock. I'm going to go with crock.
I'm going to go with shock.
Okay, well, it sounds like a crock.
Wow.
But it is a shock.
Oh, no.
It's true, and here's why. The error occurred because the company that prepares the bill had mistakenly put the invoice number in the space where the amount should go. Wow, that would be enough to give that guy a heart attack, right?
Oh, if I got that bill, I would be freaking out.
Absolutely.
That causes your blood pressure to jump off the side.
Yeah, really.
Well, so the moral of the story, keep track of all procedures, get copies of your medical records, and pay attention to your bills. Well, thanks, guys, for playing the first ever
Shocking news from around the world.
Do we like this game?
Wow. Oh, I like this one a lot.
Do you like it, Bobby?
Oh, that's good.
All right. We'll have to keep coming up with more shocks or crocks, right?
That was very fun. I love this game.
Well, hey, listeners, if you hear any shocking news we should hear, let us know.
Email us.
Email us. That's right, at speakupandstayalive.com. Well, coming up, more of what you've come to expect from America's favorite healthcare and hospital survival radio show, Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio.
Wow.
On this show, we talk about the need for a patient advocate during every healthcare or hospital encounter. But advocacy also includes whom you rely on when it comes to health insurance. And when it comes to your Medicare supplement plans, you must compare. And you must compare with an impartial provider. And that's where Generation America comes in. You've heard them on this show before. Listen while I spend the next 2 minutes with Chris Alberta, the Medicare supplement partner with Generation America, as we discuss the importance of choice. Chris, can you tell us how are you and Generation America different when it comes to choosing a Medicare supplement plan?
They're doing something, Pat, that is really unique. As opposed to looking for an opportunity to hook up with one carrier or a company with a couple of products, what they said to us was, how can we offer everybody who's a member of our organization basically a menu? Many people don't know this, is all these Medicare plans, most of them are exactly the same coverage. The only difference is the price that you pay. We work with probably upwards of about 50 different programs and carriers around the country, which is most of them. And Generation America hooked up with us and said, listen, how can we show our members every single program that's available in their zip code and then really break it down according to age and price so they never end up overpaying? All of the reps that work for us have been licensed and trained in this kind of work, and most of them have worked in the field, Pat, actually at the kitchen table with folks. So they're not just, like a sales bank somewhere. They really care what you get, and we pay them exactly the same either way, which is cool because there's no incentive to ever recommend one product or one company over another.
That is great to know. People need choices, and they need to feel safe when they make those choices. So how can our listeners find out more, and where can they purchase the proper Medicare supplement for themselves?
Well, the website, generationamerica.org, is the main portal. That's the front door, really, for that team.
Well, thank you for spending the time to clarify Medicare supplements with us today, Chris.
No problem, Pat.
Remember, folks, Generation America is on the right side for seniors. For more information or to join, visit generationamerica.org. You're listening to Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio every Saturday morning in Cleveland, Ohio, and every Sunday morning in Phoenix, Arizona. I am Pat Rouleau, your hostess and author of the book, Speak Up and Stay Alive, the Patient Advocate Hospital Survival Guide, available at all of our live speaking events or at our website, speakupandstayalive.com. That's where you can also locate radio show times, dates, and station information. That's speakupandstayalive.com. Well, now let's take a peek at the Speak Up and Stay Alive calendar. You are invited to attend any of my free hospital and healthcare safety events. I'll entertain and inform you with a fun, fast-paced, and interactive hour of hospital safety tips that you don't want to miss. In Arizona, we have several private events on our calendar, but our next public event will be held on Wednesday, April the 17th, at the Scottsdale United Methodist Church at 4140 Miller Road in Scottsdale, and that is at 5:30 in the evening. So join us. Our presentations are fun, fast-paced, and about as fun as hospital safety can be. Here's my personal guarantee. You'll love it. And if you're driving or doing something where you can't write this down, you can always visit the calendar page of the SpeakUpandStayAlive.com website. So if you're looking for a meaningful way to help your members, I'm happy to speak to your group too, but be sure to get a hold of me soon. And for my Ohio folks, I will be back. So book me now for your spring and summer events. Call me right after the show, 440-725-5462, or email speak at speakupandstayalive.com. Well, today we talked about hospital housekeepers. It's important to know what their limitations are and not to expect that your room is going to be 100% disinfected. That simply is not possible to do in 15 minutes. So as the patient, advocate, or visitor, become a part of the process and clean your room daily or more often. And make friends with your housekeepers for even better cleaning service. And our guest today, Marty Chadwick of MediationPath.com, really had some impressive ideas about how we can better communicate with our healthcare providers. I think his advice has a lot of merit, not just in a hospital situation, but in life in general. And we talked about our legacy radio programs. If you would like to memorialize or create a legacy for someone, we can honor them with a Speak Up and Stay Alive radio program in their name, just like the hour-long program you heard today. What a beautiful way to pay tribute to a life by helping others live theirs. And I hope you enjoyed our new game, Shocking News from Around the World. Just a different way to add some humor to such a serious topic. Now, if you missed some of today's show, you are standing in a rainstorm without an umbrella. When you join us each week, we can offer you some protection from the healthcare safety storms out there. You may be adding years to your life or to the life of someone you know and love. So set your alarm clocks for Saturday and Sunday mornings and join us. We love having your ears next to our show. And if you want to hear the show again, or if you want to replay it for yourself or a friend in need, simply go to the radio link at the SpeakUpandStayAlive.com website to listen to today's program. You might want to do that anyway, just to help you remember more of today's exceptional information. And be sure to listen next week. We've got one special show in store for you. Do you remember the funny caller who gave us cat calls, chicken clucks, and turtle dove impressions? Well, she will be here with us to share her thoughts on living and dying, in addition to some of her famous animal sounds. And we're going to have a surprise guest joining us to play our new game, Shocking News from Around the World. That's next Saturday morning, where you can find us in Cleveland, Ohio, from 7 to 8 Eastern on AM 1420 WHK, and from 9 to 10 Eastern on AM 1220 WHKW. Or next Sunday morning in Phoenix, Arizona, you can listen live from 9 to 10 Mountain Time on AM 960 KKNT, The Patriot. Or listen live via the internet. Check the SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com website to find out how. In the meantime, I hope you have a healthy and a happy week. I am Pat Rouleau, and I am your guide to safe and successful healthcare and hospital encounters.
The information provided in today's broadcast is for informational purposes only and was not intended for use as diagnosis or treatment of a health problem or as a substitute for consulting a licensed medical professional. If you missed part of today's show or just want to share the information with friends, you can download a copy of the show at SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com. That's SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com. Want even more information? Purchase a copy of Pat's book at the Speak Up and Stay Alive website. Once again, it's SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com.
This is Pat Rouleau. When you get a chance, become a friend and like us on Facebook. We're called Speak Up and Stay Alive. Then post your questions and comments on our Facebook wall. We may read them next week. Who else do you know who can benefit from this life-saving information? You can keep your group, club, business, or church safe from hospital hazards. I speak live and in person, too. Our events are fun, fast-paced, interactive, and jam-packed with serious information. Your crowd will love it. Just email me at speak@speakupandstayalive.com or call 440-725-5462. Until next week, remember to ask others to wash their hands. You have to speak up and stay alive. Call me, email me.
I'll survive.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Generation America, the smart, conservative, and traditional 50-plus membership organization. Generation America cares what their members think about the issues affecting seniors and ensure their voices are heard. And they provide a full range of benefits to members. For instance, if you're looking for a quality Medicare supplement, their rates are lower than the other 50-plus organization 3 out of 4 times. Generation America, on the right side for seniors. To join and to find out more, visit generationamerica.org.